Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Lucifer, Season 1, Episodes 5 and 6. So, really for these episodes, it immediately feels like there is this kind of filler, but there is a flow. So, that just seems like weird words to just kind of say here, but like there's obviously some builds of episodes that are to have these kind of odd things that are to just be like, how is it that we go on and start this episode one way to have it by the end of it? If like if you said that like, hey, in episode 5 there's going to be this runway shoot at the beginning of the episode and a gang war at the end of it, you just be like, what? But connecting the dots here. So, but there is like a really like good flow of these episodes for the most point, because like I know before I would just be like, man, like the bouncing ball that I'm trying to follow to try to connect all these things just seems so um like bizarre, but like because it just seems like they want to try to have all these unique characters just kind of placed into this show. um but I just feel like these are kind of just filler episodes, and like we of course have episode 6 where at the end of it we have this like dangling carrot that's like, hey, come on and watch more episodes, and we're like, of course we are, because we've already been watching this show anyways, regardless, because we could. But like also this show really, to me, like really just feels like a detective show. Like I'm just like, but I want the supernatural elements to be placed into the like. I want a thorough like supernatural like thing placed into the. I don't want this to just be some detective show, because then I'll be bored. Then I'll get bored and I'll just be like, like yeah, like I didn't come here for a detective show. I just didn't. So hopefully we're gonna get something infused into this show that is to just kind of give us something that it's like, oh, okay, well, like I liked this. This is refreshing, especially when we get into the later seasons where they have to kind of like have these story arcs and like these builds and of certain characters and stuff like that. I think um, that's the thing about certain shows where it's like trying to find itself in the early things, even though it's like, well, no, like these guys have gone on and done a number of these shows, and it should be easy for them to just kind of go through. It's like, well, yeah, but still, like in every early part of a season, there or every part of a show, early, it's just like, I don't, yeah, like, it kind of just goes on. It's like, how about we just kind of chuck this out now that we've kind of gone on and set up some certain things? Well, let's just go and start chucking things out. So that's kind of what these episodes kind of feel like. So, so yeah. So with that said, because like runway show and then gang war in one episode, I'm like, how is it that this like feels like a flow of things, but or feels like a weird mashup of things in these episodes to try to do something unique, but like the unique part of it should actually be coming from the supernatural characters that should somehow really be battling or fighting or whatever. It just kind of feels like we've already like lost that after a number of episodes where Amenadiel is just like, well, I guess there's nothing I can just do right now. I guess I'll just instead of going on and like threatening Lucifer, because like my threats just kind of feel empty at this point. Like now Amenadiel is going on and having some strategy to try to convince Lucifer uh, to kind of turn back or decide to go on uh, and change his ways and so on. So, yeah, it's like it's those kinds of episodes. So with that said, let's just go into this thing called a double five, because it's about that time to just go into this thing called spoilers. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about Lucifer or this first season. Maybe you, of course, are a Lucifer expert, because there's a lot of people out there that love this show. and they would go on, and people would be besmirched by me going on and saying like that, like, how could you just call these a filler episode, especially with what happens at episode 6? The tail end of that, just be like, whoa. And I was just like, because we had like this build of an episode that just kind of like gave us this little dangling carrot, and I'm just like, no, like, I'm not going to accept that. Like, I want to go on and have like a whole episode focused on that one thing instead of just this build and then this kind of cliffhanger. No. Just boatloads of no going on there. So let's go on into this thing that is to always be usually be called spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time to spoil this episode. So, in the very beginning of this episode, we have Lucifer, or as I like to call him, Lucifer, because it's funny to me to just mispronounce names. And I think there's some times where a lot of people would immediately go on and like, oh, you mispronounced something. And then it's like, well, what if I did it on purpose just to see if anyone was to say anything? Because that's the whole point of a comment section. And like, there's sometimes where it's just an accident, and then people go on like, oh, well, it's actually pronounced this. And I'm like, what if people have a speech impediment and whatever? Like, you're just going to go on and shame them for like saying people have accents. Moving on. So, Lucifer, accent. Anyways, pushing on. So, Lucifer is at this runway model thing. And so, it seems that the focus is to not really be on the clothes. It seems that the focus is to mostly be on the shoes. Lucifer has decided to go back to backstage to get an all-access pass on a woman's lips. And while it seems that Lucifer is to get this woman to give him some lip-locking action, all of a sudden there seems to be some action going on via this runway because bullets are flying. So we of course have it where Lucifer is like, ooh, like, I'm intrigued of where this story might head, because we have Lucifer in the last episode who is to realize that he is mortal, and he's still kind of hobbling around with that whole bullet hole injury. And so Lucifer is to say, like, well, hey, like, since I could possibly be mortal, like, I want to go on and see like how far I can push this, like. And so we have this episode where the theme kind of is like danger zone, like the Tom Cruise Top Gun danger zone kind of thing. Like, we have that going on here where Lucifer is to want to see if he can go and die or get killed, or just kind of like really just see how painful things can really be, and to just kind of be like everyone else. So we find out a woman in this runway show, Cortez, was to get murdered here, viciously murdered by bullets. So we have to go on and figure out, like, well, who could have been the person to have killed this Cortez woman, or like, was the goal to have shoot this woman? And because it seems like there were actually like legitimate celebrities that were at this whole like shindig that should have gone on and probably been assassinated much more so than this Cortez woman. So we have Chloe and we have Lucifer, who are to question Cortez's cousin, who is to be a guy named Diego with a girl named Danny. And so we have Lucifer through this whole episode is really trying to push people to see if they're going to whip this gun out and shoot him and whatever. And we kind of have Chloe here who immediately is like, dude, I want nothing to do with Lucifer in this episode because he's going to get me killed. Like, this is kind of like a Breaking Bad episode. If anyone was to go on and see Breaking Bad, like, it kind of goes down to where it's like, God, these guys are going to die any moment. And you're just kind of clutching on as, like, the show is like, you're just holding onto your seat, just like, who's going to die? When are they going to die? And if you realize that there's also a number of seasons that these characters are to be in the show, then you probably have this sigh of relief to just be like, well, it's not going to be today. Maybe towards the end of the show. So we have Lucifer who had talked to this lieutenant, and so it seems that Lucifer is to kind of doing that whole old catchphrase. It's like, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And so it seems that Lucifer is going to actually be a consultant for the police, for the coppas, for the hot fuzz or the fuzz or cop lingo. Anyway, so Lucifer is also talking to Lieutenant about him wanting to risk his life also, and the Lieutenant is like, okay, like, no. But Lucifer is to talk to Chloe, and when they head into Diego's place, Lucifer is saying like, well, hey, like there may be gun violence coming in here, and maybe I should go on and like I should be like ahead of you, so that way if there's any bullets that fly, like I'll get hit first. And Chloe's like, oh my god. So Chloe instead decides that she's gonna lock the door and keep Lucifer like in this car, because like this guy is just gonna like is gonna kill himself or kill Chloe. And so Chloe goes on and is to question Diego, and we have Lucifer that ends up getting out of the car anyways and is kind of hearing Diego going on and crying boohoo tears. And Lucifer is like, seriously? So like we're not going to go on and have this guy who's all like tough and hard and like he's going to be whipping out guns like what? Like we have crybaby gangster? No. Like, and we just immediately have us realize that we're going to have like the very opposite kind of like for I guess stereotypical gangsters, like we're gonna go on and try to do the exact opposite here, where everybody is to have these like heartbreaking stories. And so we have Diego that divulges that there could possibly be a culprit here to have killed Diego's cousin, and that may actually be Yellow Viper, because Yellow Viper was to go on and do a crime with Benny Cho here, and Yellow Viper, goofy name, but it's the guy's name, was to go and have prison time where Benny didn't have prison time. And so there's a possible suspicion that Benny was to kind of rat on Yellow Viper here. And so they're like, well, okay, it seems like we have to question this guy. So we also had a moment where Benny's pig was to, of course, get assassinated. Viciously assassinated. To where they had to, like, grab a bunch of candles as Benny is having this whole like eulogy and all this other kind of stuff being done for this pig. We of course have Benny's security guard, I think Hector, who's kind of very distraught about this pig who had died. So this all leads to, of course, have both Chloe and Lucifer, um, making it on to speak with Yellow Viper, who seems to be focusing his life on teaching kids how to paint, and is going on and trying to help them try to figure out how to shade and stuff like that using these kind of paint these kind of God, what are they called? Paint cans. There we go. So the sprayer the sprayer the paint spray, what the spray cans, the and you go and spray whatever. Anyways, why did I overly have to explain that? So Yellow Viper is to make his way to see that Chloe and Lucifer are there, and so it seems that Yellow Viper is being very compliant to what they're asking, and so it seems that Yellow Viper is very suspicious that um, he, of course, would uh, be the guy to have gone on and been the person to assassinate these people. But Yellow Viper is to mention, it's like, well, no, man, like after my time in prison, like I've kind of moved on, and like I found painting, and so yeah, I'm not gonna go on and waste this time. Uh, Besides just going on and painting, so we also had Lucifer and Chloe that were to also go to this bar, and we have Chloe that is to not really be welcomed at this bar, and they're kind of giving her crap under their breath. And so Lucifer is telling Chloe, it's like, hey, go over there and hit that guy. Chloe's like, no, no, and so Lucifer, who's going to stand up for Chloe, is decided to go over to a guy called Anthony, and is to go on and punch him out, and is to give him crap, and then is to leave. And so now Dan has to go on and talk to Anthony to try and convince him to not press charges, because for some reason or another, Chloe is to uh Chloe is to just be fascinated with this guy. So Dan is just like, well, you know what, like since since you and Chloe are friends, I figured that I would go on and kind of help you out of this. And we always have Lucifer that is called Dan, Detective Douche, and all these kind of put downs. But it seems that we find out that Dan is a solid guy. Maybe because muscle and body fat and percentages and whatever, but still, solid guy. And it seems like he's trying to do the right thing, even though a lot of times he is to, I guess, within these episodes, we find that he is to probably overwork himself, or to not really plan his day all that well, because he is to also be spending some time with Trixie. So, and we'll see that within the next episode a little bit here. So, here's the goofy thing though, we had that whole Lucifer going and beating punching this guy. I would have thought that that might have gone somewhere into this episode where it would have seemed like they would have needed the help of that guy, but honestly, that scene just kind of goes randomly nowhere. And I would have thought there would have been some kind of connection with that, but there just isn't. Maybe there's going to be a connection somewhere down the road. But anyways, uh, but it would just kind of be great if Chloe would stick up for herself, because she's gonna be a police officer forever, and there's gonna be consistent people that are just kind of snickering and like kind of going on and giving her crap behind her back. So like maybe at some point with like Chloe continuing to just like bang her out all these cases, maybe she'll eventually earn some real respect between her and her coworkers. But we'll figure that out. So at some point we have Diego and Danny that are to make their way to Yellow Viper to have this gun kind of standoff. And Yellow Viper is to have a number of these students that he's wanting to protect here. And so Lucifer is to decide to be this like distraction where, because Lucifer is again conveniently with Chloe speaking to Yellow Viper, like trying to kind of figure out like who could have really been the culprit here. And Diego and Danny show up, and guns a-blazing almost, it seems. So Lucifer is talking to Diego, and of course Diego is to be like whiny crybaby guy. And so Lucifer, of course, is to kind of work on that and is to just kind of like really like tear these characters down. And so while he's going on and doing that to be like the distraction, getting all these characters out of here, we all of a sudden have both Diego and Danny realize, oh my god, like all of these people, they're all gone. So really at this point we're probably thinking that Diego and Danny would probably have something to do with the murder of their own cousin. But come to find out, we'd actually be wrong. That when it comes down to it, it seems that really this has much more of a tying uh, to actually Benny. Because Benny wanted to go on and figure out some way for Benny's paintings to become uh, very high end, very expensive, and so and kind of get free advertisement. And so the whole shooting situation was to have been put together so Benny could go on and make even like free advertisement, but also just like a ton of money on these one of a kind paintings because of him getting this limelight to be able to kind of showcase his products and his of course paintings. So we even have at one point where Lucifer is thinking about buying a painting from Benny, but then he wants to modify the painting a little bit by shoving Benny through the painting. So we had earlier where Benny's bodyguard was to have a Marine tattoo. And I guess a Marine tattoo means that this guy is a sniper and he can just wipe everybody out. Because we find out that Benny's bodyguard is to have been the culprit of killing Cortez, and Benny had, of course, the connection of that to try to, of course, try to get his. Like, we kind of have the same kind of stories with these guys that are like them being rich isn't good enough. They got to figure out a way to like become like richer or to have their items be like showcased somehow to where it's all of a sudden like a different light, just be like, oh, because of this the tragedy of this whole thing, like now like Benny is to have like made tons and tons of money off these paintings and these shoes and these products. And uh like, because really when looking at it, we had that whole same thing with Delilah, where like all of a sudden like she was to get killed, and then her music was to be like skyrocketing. It's same thing. So they put it together and they piece this all together, and so Lucifer is to also say that like, or is to also like have the bodyguard mention that like they didn't want to kill the pig, and it's like, okay, like whatever, this random goofy thing of an episode. So hopefully most of that is technically covered, because I'm just going to kind of move on into the other episode. So within the episode, we have this fun thing going on with Trixie here. So in the other episode, uh, but like there's also a Lucifer thing, but still, there's also a fun Trixie thing. So in episode 6, we have Trixie, who has a birthday, I guess, coming up, and so now we have Chloe and we have Dan, who are kind of sitting their kid down, and they're saying like, you know what, like it's not a good thing to lie to us, Trixie, and like it seems that there was some chocolate cake that had gone missing, and we're just trying to figure out who could be the culprit to have gone on and taken this chocolate cake. As we just see Trixie, who is to have like kind of smears of chocolate cake on her face. And so like they can obviously just kind of screenshot or whatever, they can kind of like take a photo of this girl and then showcase to her. It's like, here's the evidence, here it is, here's the evidence right here, like right on my phone. But no, they're wanting to give this girl the benefit of the doubt. Just like, well, she's a good girl, so maybe she'll just cop to the truth. And so Chloe goes on, and I think I probably forgot about the whole Linda Amenadiel thing, and I'll get to that here soon. So Chloe and Dan are trying to interrogate uh, Trixie here, and Chloe used to kind of go in and see if Trixie's going to tell the truth, which she doesn't. And then Dan goes in and he's like, "Well, like honey, like you do realize like lying is wrong, and like if your mother didn't eat the cake and I didn't eat the cake, who is really left here to have possibly eaten this cake?" And we have Trixie then finally confesses, because she is to possibly be the only like person who is to um, go on and to have eaten his cake. It's not that Lucifer just kind of dropped by, and Trixie could have probably used that excuse, but she didn't. Um, but Trixie is to mention that she uses Lucifer as a reasoning for wanting to go on and have this chocolate cake. That it seems that Lucifer is to really like tell like Trixie, like through a way of him talking, that if you want something, like you should go ahead and do it. Like you should do it if you really want it. And Trixie was to say, it's like, well, because of what Lucifer said, like I really wanted to eat some chocolate cake, and so I did. And so like, well, like we get that, but like we had the cake like preserved for a special occasion. Um, and so that's usually the thing where like sometimes people just get really hungry and there's nothing in the fridge. So it's just like, well, like some people like accidentally just eat food and they don't realize like, oh, I guess that was just served or saved for another day. Like, I don't know, I was just hungry now. I don't know. So regardless, let's push on. So we had it where Amenadiel is, and I love consistently having to say that name because I always feel like I can actually correctly say it. Isn't that great? Amenadiel is talking with Linda, as Amenadiel is to mention that he is some other therapist that is to be in this building, And so Amityville is to consistently figure out some way to have these talking moments with Linda. Because if I were to have gone on and said before that it seemed like Amityville was going to get with Maze, like, I guess that ship has, like, started but then already sailed off. But it seems that weirdly, when we go into this show, there is this kind of weird, uh, like, parts of story where they have to kind of reflect on that. How, like, kind of Maze was to possibly have a Amityville first, and then Linda kind of stole Amityville and this and that, because we are possibly going to be heading into that direction sometime in the near future. So Amityville is to mention like a certain case that he is having problems with, and maybe he can go on and talk to Linda about it. And really, Amityville is to want Linda to open up about her cases, and really it's just for her to talk more about Lucifer to Amityville, so Amityville could uh, be able to find out what's really going on with Lucifer via every episode. And so Amityville is telling Linda, like, well, hey, like, tell me about all of your difficult patients. And Linda's like, well, you have no idea. so, so yeah, Amityville is like saying that he is this therapist, but really he's just eventually at some point going to have to reveal to Linda the actual truth. At some point. So, Linda is to splurge to Amityville that she has a guy who is to be Lucifer Morningstar, and that he is to think that he's the devil. And Amityville's like, oh, really? Like, wow, that's kind of fascinating because coincidentally for me, like, I know the Bible like the back of my hand, as if I was like there as the events were being carved into paper. Uh, carved into paper? It's a weird, goofy saying, but anyways. So, like, Amityville was like, it feels like he was there as the events were happening, and so Amityville is gonna be like Linda's kind of brain ninja to figure out how Linda can talk to Lucifer about what's going on with Lucifer in this episode. So what is going on with Lucifer in this episode, we'll find out. So it seems that Chloe's to have a case about a security guard that had died because murder. And Chloe's to go on to this storage facility place to like realize that this security guard is dead. I'm like, shouldn't there be like cameras all around, like showcasing to us like what had happened, seemingly to this character, but I guess inconveniently not. So, and they showcase what technically happened to this guy, but like we don't actually see who the person was who was to have gone on and taken this man down. So, and we're possibly thinking that it's probably Maze because it looks like a female. Because we also had a moment where Maze was sneaking into Chloe's place and was just kind of watching her as she was asleep. And we see Maze's reflection in this mirror. And man, is that just all kinds of just face. So, as if we were to go on and see like Jason with his mask off, and wouldn't recommend it because we never actually see like what's all up under that thing. Well, technically we get like technically we do at some points, but anyways, pushing on. So Lucifer and Chloe. Lucifer is to make it to this storage facility place, and is talking to Chloe. And when Chloe's to break down, like, yeah, the security guard guy died, and Lucifer's like, really? Like, that's the case that we're doing? Some just rando security guard died? Like, you know what? Like, I'm outie 5,000. See you later, Chloe. Like, I'm just gonna get out of here. Like, this case is boring. Like, give me give me a case with some steak on it. Come on. Like, so Lucifer is leaving, and so he decides, like, this case, like, whatever, like I don't really need to help Chloe with this one. So Lucifer is talking to Maze here, and it seems that Maze is to find out through all of her stuff that she has connections with, that there is to have been this storage container that had gone missing, and conveniently it was Lucifer's storage container that had gotten missing. And so now we have a whole entire episode where Chloe is asking Lucifer, it's like, well, hey, what's in the storage container? What's in there? Let me know in the comments below what you think the storage container thing is, because you have to go on and ask that a plethora of times within this episode. As even, like, Dan is just like, well, hey, tell me. What is it? Come on. Because we have this storage facility that is to be this kind of, like, underground, like, shaded, like, storage facility. So immediately, like, Chloe and Dan are possibly thinking that Lucifer is to have something, like, he doesn't want to be revealed that he has in this container, and that he's probably going to get arrested for. So because Chloe is to have had Lucifer say in the past, it's like, well, hey, you can trust me. I'm going to tell you the absolute truth all the time. And so then Chloe's like, well, tell me the truth about, like, and immediately we kind of have this dialogue that just kind of, like, within this episode, we have, like, kind of Chloe warming up to Lucifer, but it's this kind of weird warming up kind of thing where Lucifer is to kind of joke around with Chloe. It's like, well, hey, maybe we can go on a celebration that ends up with us in bed. And Chloe's like, I don't know, kind of thing. And then Lucifer's like, huh? Where, yeah, like, it's so, like, there is some kind of weird, goofy things going on between Lucifer and Chloe in this episode, to kind of, like, give us this, like, idea that maybe Lucifer has a chance with Chloe. I guess he's just worn her down. He's just worn her down so badly that Chloe is just like, well, like, maybe there is hope for Lucifer. Maybe he is a guy that's going to be, like, telling me the truth and being honest with me. So guys, you know what? You don't need to go on and really do, like, anything whatsoever. You just need to be honest. Like, if you be honest, then, like, women just, like, flock, and you have to beat them off with a stick, metaphorically, because I wouldn't suggest that literally, because you could go to this thing called jail for that. So Lucifer is to, like be like Jim Carrey from Dumb and Dumber is like, so you're saying there's a chance. So anyways, so we now have to follow the pattern of who was to go on and possibly take this storage container. And so it leads us down this path of us, of course, oh my god. Great, right? Great. This weirdly leads to this weird El Diablo biker gang that, of course, they have to question these guys to just be like, well, hey, like, did you take this storage container? And they're, of course, going on of like, no. And we have Lucifer asking, of course, Hank Cutter, who's to be this El Diablo biker leader, like, hey, what is it that you deeply desire? And we have Hank that's going on. And he's like, well, I want a clothing deal. I want a T-shirt brand. I want because Hank is going on and saying it's like, well, yeah, like I've had long, like long rides on the road, and like they've really gone on and like taxed my body, and like I really want to go on and figure out how we can kind of take this whole biker thing and like kind of like shift it into another medium so I can make money off this and kind of retire. And it's like, okay, so like this guy still has no real connection to this whole like storage container thing. And so they're trying to go on and track this thing down and figure this whole thing out. And so we go on into this episode, and this leads us to eventually figure out where this storage container is. And again, like, Chloe is to want to see Lucifer open this thing up, because Lucifer is to tell Chloe, it's like, well, it's a gift from my dad. It's a gift from basically God. And so Chloe just still isn't to believe Lucifer, and so it's like, what is it exactly? And Lucifer, it's like, well, it's a bunch of just like Russian dolls that I just like kept into this storage container. And Chloe's like, no. No. So Lucifer then is to decide, and plus, like, this feels like an over use of a storage container for this one little box. Does that make sense to anybody to have this big, massive storage container for this tiny little box? Doesn't make sense. So, but we really have this cool moment in this episode also, where Lucifer is in this therapy session with Linda, and like we have this point where Lucifer is to be upset about how like things were taken from him, and he punches this wall, like not getting the opportunity for probably redemption, or to possibly have the ability to kind of make up for his mistakes or any number of things, to have either God forgive him or accept him. And it just feels like Lucifer has always just kind of been punished for like a crime that he may not have even understood. Like, why is it that I was just banished or shunned out? And so we get kind of Lucifer, who is just kind of really upset on how like things are getting like taken away from him. And so we find out what this container is to actually have held by the end of this episode, because we are desperately having Lucifer is like, oh my god, I hope like these people don't really find what's in this container. I hope like this isn't going to be on eBay somewhere, or somebody's going to find out or figure it out, or something. Or it's going to get posted online somewhere. Oh my god. So we have the container that ends up getting opened, and we find that there is supposedly just Russian dolls that are in this little box inside this massive container. I'm like, what a waste of space. Like, I'm a person, like I would never want to blow money on something that is to be that extravagant for a small, tiny box. But so Chloe is to trust Lucifer again, because like technically Lucifer was telling the truth about the whole Russian doll thing. But then we have them go back, and we have Lucifer, who's to actually open a secret part of this storage container, because Lucifer is to have like kept his angel wings in this container. He didn't burn them. He didn't go on uh, and try to uh, like do something with them, like try to like concoct some other kind of. But like so, he kept his angel wings, and we realize that his angel wings have gone missing. So now that's going to be the story that is going to kind of like hold us for another X number of episodes to just kind of figure out like, hey, where is his angel wings? We need to figure out where this is. It's the chase for the angel wings. So with that said, kind of rushed through this one, the tail end of this one, and plus also I didn't quite remember how everything was to kind of plop down. But let me know in the comments below how you felt about these episodes. Really, like, to have all this kind of build to consistently just have Lucifer like telling to us that this item is to be important, and then when we actually see what it is, we still have to kind of question. It's like, well, is it really important? Is it really going to be all that like substantial for us to really care about? And then when it actually gets revealed, it's like, oh, okay, well, like not that jazzed. Like I thought it was going to be some like originally when I saw this, like I thought it was going to be like some uh like weapon of sorts, or I thought it was going to be like the staff of destiny or something like that, where it's like, oh my god, like this could be one weapon that Lucifer could whip out at any moment to just like uh, deck all. Because at some point, like we have to build within the show that there's going to be a war brewing, and that Lucifer at some point is to possibly try to storm the castle and to try to make his way back, possibly Dogma style, if anybody was to see the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon Dogma movie, to possibly have an all out war on heaven. So, like, there's a kind of a build to that, and we may at some point possibly see Lucifer uh, donning some wings, and there might be a whole story arc about that, possibly somewhere in the near future, maybe. So with that said, I'm gonna go out of my way to say it's about that time for me to just get out of here. Let me know in the comments below any whatever. I know, like, even with details about episodes, that's perfectly fine, because like I know there were some like kind of janky ways of which that I kind of went on to try to like talk about these episodes, and especially there's just like details that get missed. But anyways, I'm just gonna go on to another review for today. So I'm gonna go out of my way to say goodbye, everybody. Bye, bye.